Good morning, everybody. My name is Sanjaya Wijayakoon. I'm a superintendent with the BC RCMP Major Crime Program. I oversee the Vancouver Island Integrated Major Crime Unit here on the island, also known as VIMQ. This morning we're here as VIMQ releases their findings into the armed robbery of the Bank of Montreal in Saanich. The events of that day left 6 Vancouver Island police officers wounded and 2 suspects dead. First, I want to say that my thoughts are with the staff of the bank and the civilians who were inside. I recognize what a traumatic day that certainly was. The Saanich Police Department Victim Services continue to offer support to anyone who needs it as a result of that day's events. I want to thank the brave police officers and the specialized units who put their lives on the line that day. Your actions and your courage that you displayed that day saved countless innocent lives. Of that, I am certain. To all the officers who were affected as a result, our thoughts are with you and your families as you continue on your road to recovery. What occurred that day will have a lasting impact on all those involved, both the officers and the community. We want to do our best to provide as much information to you to bring about a sense of closure without inciting others to take similar actions. On the morning of June 28, 2022, 2 male suspects entered the Bank of Montreal wearing full body armor and armed with semi-automatic SKS rifles. When the first officers arrived on the scene from the Saanich Police Department, there was an armed robbery in progress with 22 innocent people inside the bank. After an extensive and thorough investigation by VIMQ, we are now in a position to confirm that the suspects did act alone. They were prepared for significant violence, and they were motivated by anti-authority beliefs. Over 200 officers from various police agencies and units, including the Saanich Police Department, the Victoria Police Department, and multiple RCMP units were involved in both the initial response and the subsequent investigation. Corporal Berube is here to give a more fulsome explanation of VIMQ's findings. The criminal aspect of this investigation is now concluded, but we'll continue to support any of the agencies involved with their investigations, as well as the BC Coroner Service. Once again, I reiterate that we are here to support everyone involved and the community as well as we move past this terrifying act of violence and we work towards healing. I'll pass it over to Corporal Berube now.
To date, the Vancouver Island Integrated Major Crime Unit released their investigative findings on the bank robbery and attempted murder of Vancouver Island police officers by 2 individuals in Saanich in June of 2022. On the morning of June 28, 2022, 2 armed suspects entered a bank in Saanich with the intention of causing serious harm. At 11:02 a.m., 2 male suspects entered the Bank of Montreal branch located in the 3600 block of Shelburne Street in Saanich. Both suspects wore balaclavas, were clad in full body armor, and were armed with semi-automatic SKS rifles. Officers from the Saanich Police Department responded to 911 calls from inside and outside the bank. On arrival, officers observed an armed robbery in progress and established containment of the area surrounding the bank. The Greater Victoria Emergency Response Team was in the area on an unrelated matter, also attended the call to provide support to the initial responding frontline officers. As the 2 suspects exited the bank, GVERT members drove into the BMO parking lot and an exchange of gunfire occurred. The 2 suspects, who were both later identified as twin brothers, Isaac and Matthew Octoloni, both 22 years old from Duncan, were shot by police in the exchange and both succumbed to their injuries at the scene. Six police officers were also wounded by gunfire. 3 Victoria Police Department officers and 3 Saanich Police Department officers, all members of GVERT. The officers were taken to hospital and treated to their injuries. the accused conduct of the criminal investigation into the robbery and the attempted murder of police officers. The primary objective of the investigator was to determine if any other party or parties were involved in the planning and/or execution of the incident. Despite previous speculations, there was no evidence found to suggest any third party was involved. It was determined the suspect's primary objective was to shoot and kill police officers. In what they saw as a stand against government regulations, especially in relations to firearms ownership. The initial response and subsequent investigation included support from numerous police agencies, including the Saanich Police Department, the Victoria Police Department, multiple RCMP units such as Air Services, Major Crime Sections, Explosive Disposal Unit, and the Emergency Response Team. Multiple other police units were engaged to assist with the large-scale investigation, including the National Weapons Enforcement Support Team, the E-Division Integrated National Security Enforcement Team, and the RCMP Behavioral Analysis Unit, totaling over 200 police officers involved in this investigation. There were 22 civilians inside the bank who were bank employees as well as customers. Video surveillance showed the two armed suspects, clad in body armor, enter the bank at 11:02 a.m., prompting multiple calls to police. The suspects were inside the bank for just over 16 minutes. Surveillance footage captured them on several occasions going back to the front vestibule and looking outside before going back inside the bank. Surveillance footage also showed one suspect discharging his rifle inside the bank. The time spent in the bank and their actions made it apparent to police that the objective of the robbery was not to obtain money, but rather to generate an armed confrontation with police. Following the aftermath and in the course of the investigation, police learned calls had been made to police dispatch by witnesses shortly after the incident, with reports that a white van had been driving erratically in the area around the time of the robbery and shootout. These reports, it was later determined, had been sightings of the unmarked G-Vert van en route to the robbery and not affiliated with the suspects. Police did learn, however, the suspects purchased a vehicle a few days prior to the robbery and shootout, a white four-door 1992 Toyota Camry with two distinctive black racing stripes from the hood to the trunk, registered to one of the suspects. In the trunk of the Camry, police discovered in excess of 30 improvised explosive devices, 4 additional firearms, and over 3,500 rounds of ammunition were also recovered. An NWIS analysis conducted both the suspects held valid possession and acquisition licenses for both non-restricted and restricted firearms. During the investigation, a CCTV video canvass was completed at hundreds of businesses and residences around the area of the shooting. In total, video was obtained from 52 different sources, including numerous numerous locations around the bank. This also included video spanning from the area near the suspect's residence and the path used by them to get to the area of the shooting. A search was conducted at the residence where the suspects lived. Multiple improvised explosive devices were located, as well as material used to manufacture the explosive devices. EDU members advised that the explosive appeared homemade and were not sophisticated. There was no evidence that the explosives had been obtained from outside sources, but had rather been manufactured by the suspects. The explosives recovered from the Toyota Camry closely matched the appearance of those found at the residence, and they appeared to be from the same source. While the suspects were not known to police, evidence at the scene indicated the suspects held strong anti-government, anti-police, and anti-authority views. Personal annotations were recovered expressing their outrage at the restriction of their access to firearm and body armor. Through careful analysis of evidence gathered, investigators believe that the suspect's original plan was to have a shootout in mid-2023 at an unknown location, but they moved up the date due to having to move out of the house in which they lived. The suspects concluded that they could not move their arsenal of weapons to a new location without attracting attention, and thus selecting the bank location at random. Copious amounts of evidence gathered from the scene of the shooting and the residence of the two suspects ultimately concludes that the two individuals were isolated from society and harboring deep-seated resentment and anger towards authority. The individuals had been plotting an act of extreme violence since at least 2019 and were fully prepared for the consequences. The civilians inside the bank, while directly threatened and traumatized, were never the ultimate targets of the suspects. The armed robbery was used to generate a police response with the ultimate goal of inflicting damage. The action of the officers on that day saved countless lives.